Working the overnight shift at a hotel sounds easier than it actually is. Most people think you just sit at the front desk, check in a few late arrivals, maybe answer the phone once or twice, and spend the rest of the night watching movies or doing homework. But the reality is different. The reality is being alone in a building with dozens of rooms and hallways and stairwells, responsible for the safety of sleeping guests, with nobody to call if something goes wrong, except the police, who might take 10 or 15 minutes to arrive. That is a long time when you are alone with someone dangerous. It was a Thursday night in March when he first walked into the lobby. I was sitting at the front desk, going through emails when I heard the automatic doors slide open. I looked up and saw a man in his late 30s, average height, wearing jeans and a hoodie, hands in his pockets. He looked around the lobby slowly, taking in the layout, the cameras, the hallways that led to different wings of the hotel. Then he walked up to the desk. I asked if I could help him. He said he was thinking about getting a room but wanted to see what was available first. I pulled up the booking system and started going through options, showing him photos of different room types, explaining prices and amenities. He barely looked at the screen. He was looking past me, at the door behind the desk that led to the back offices, at the security monitor showing different hallways, at the keycard machine. After a few minutes, he said he would think about it and come back later. Then he left. Something about the interaction felt off, but I could not put my finger on what. He had not done anything threatening or strange. He just asked about rooms and left. But the way he looked around, the way he studied the lobby instead of the room options, made my stomach feel tight. I told myself I was being paranoid, that working alone at night was making me jumpy. I went back to my emails and tried to forget about it. 20 minutes later, the doors opened again. Same man, same hoodie. He walked in and headed straight for the hallway that led to the guest rooms. I called out to him, asked if he needed help finding something. He stopped and turned around, that same blank expression on his face. Just looking for the vending machines, he said. I told him the vending machines were in the other hallway, pointed in the right direction. He nodded and walked the way I pointed, but slowly, looking into every alcove and doorway, like he was mapping the building in his head. He came back to the lobby 5 minutes later. No drink, no snacks, nothing to suggest he had actually used the vending machines. He walked past the desk without looking at me and went out the front doors. I watched him through the windows. He did not get into a car. He did not walk toward the parking lot. He just stood outside under the awning, looking at his phone, occasionally glancing back at the lobby. My hands were shaking now. I picked up the desk phone and almost called the police, but what would I say? A man came into the hotel twice and walked around? That did not sound like an emergency. I pulled out my cell phone instead and texted my manager, told her there was a suspicious person hanging around the lobby. She responded immediately. Lock yourself in the back office if you feel unsafe. Call the police if he tries anything. I will be there in 20 minutes. I felt a tiny bit of relief knowing she was on her way, but 20 minutes suddenly felt like forever. I kept watching the man through the windows. He was still there, still looking at his phone, still glancing at the lobby. Then he put his phone away and walked back inside. This time he did not come to the desk. He walked straight toward the hallway that led to the employee areas, the places guests are not supposed to go. I stood up fast, my heart pounding. Sir, you cannot go back there. That is staff only. He stopped and looked at me, and for the first time his expression changed. He smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was cold and knowing, like he was testing me, seeing what I would do. I am just looking for the bathroom, he said. I pointed to the guest bathroom on the other side of the lobby, my voice shaking. He stood there for a moment longer, still smiling, then walked slowly toward the bathroom. I did not take my eyes off him. He went inside and I heard the lock click. I grabbed the office phone and dialed the police. I told the dispatcher there was a man repeatedly entering the hotel, trying to access restricted areas, making me feel unsafe. She asked if he had threatened me or tried to hurt me. I said no, but that something was very wrong, that I was alone and scared. She said she would send officers immediately. I thanked her and hung up, my whole body shaking. The bathroom door opened. He walked out slowly, looking directly at me. No pretense now of being a confused guest. He walked toward the desk and I stepped back, putting as much distance between us as possible. My hand was on the back office door handle, ready to run inside and lock it. "Where are the stairs to the second floor?" he asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes were not. His eyes were sharp and focused and calculating. I did not answer. I just stared at him, my hand tightening on the door handle. He took a step closer to the desk. I could hear sirens in the distance, faint but getting louder. He heard them too. His head tilted slightly, listening, and then his whole body language changed. The calm mask dropped. He looked angry, frustrated, like I had ruined something he had been planning. He turned and walked fast toward the front doors. I watched him leave, watched him cross the parking lot and disappear into the darkness beyond the lights. The police arrived 2 minutes later. I was sitting in the back office with the door locked, crying, unable to stop shaking. The officers checked the building, looked at the security footage, took my statement. They said the man had been casing the hotel, figuring out the layout, testing how much he could get away with before I called for help. They said people like that are usually planning to rob the place or hurt someone, and that my instinct to call when I did probably stopped whatever he was planning. They checked the guest rooms to make sure everyone was safe. They stayed in the lobby until my manager arrived. When they ran his description through their system, they found he was wanted in another city for burglary. He had broken into 2 other hotels in the past year, waited until the overnight worker was distracted or away from the desk, then gone through guest rooms stealing wallets and laptops and anything valuable he could carry. In one case, he had assaulted a worker who tried to stop him. The police said I was lucky. They said if I had not called when I did, he might have waited until I was alone in the back office and then done something much worse than theft. I quit 2 weeks later. I could not work overnight shifts anymore, could not sit at that desk knowing how vulnerable I'd been, how close I came to being alone in that building with someone dangerous. My manager understood. She said the hotel would start scheduling 2 people for overnight shifts from now on, that nobody should have to work alone like that. But the change came too late for me. The damage was already done. Mom, I still have nightmares about that night. I dream that I'm back at the desk, that the door is open and he walks in again. But this time, the police do not come in time, and I am trapped in the back office with him outside the door. I wake up sweating, my heart racing, checking the locks on my apartment even though I know I am safe. The fear he planted that night grew roots, and I cannot pull them out. The worst part is thinking about what could have happened. What if I had not texted my manager? What if I had not called the police? What if he had gotten into the back office before help arrived? Those what-ifs keep me up at night, reminding me how thin the line is between safety and danger, between a normal shift and a tragedy. If you work overnight shifts alone at hotels or gas stations or anywhere isolated, please be careful. Trust your gut when someone makes you uncomfortable. Do not worry about being rude or calling the police over nothing. The person who keeps coming back, who asks too many questions, who tries to go places they should not be, is not confused. They are planning. And you do not want to be there when their plan goes into action. I called for help when I did, and I survived. Not everyone is that lucky.